Hi, my name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. I produce the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings and the Bias Plus reports, and this is Ben and Barry on football.
Hello out there, this is Ben Dickerson, your co-host. Please excuse me if I look a little disheveled. Well, maybe I don't look so disheveled, but I feel disheveled. It was a really hot day in Philadelphia today. I'm just coming back from football practice. Man, it's a scorcher out there, but I'm ready to talk some football.
Still hanging in there, man. That's one of the things about football. It's an outdoor sport, man. Well, no, it's not always outdoor sport. Not if you got a dome. They're going to put a dome over that playground, man.
Yeah, right. A dome over Simon's Recreation Center. That'll
There you go. That's pretty cool. That'd be pretty cool. Look here, we got a great show set up today. Last week, we ran through the linebacker rooms based on Pro Football Focus's list. I always have a hard time with that. With their list, and they ranked them from 1 through 32. We're not necessarily going along with the rankings per se, but we're using that as a basis for walking through each and every team and looking at their linebacker rooms. And we've already learned a lot and had some surprises as to who was in the lower half of the rankings. So I implore everybody, go back and check out last week's videos where we look at 32 through 16. And, you know, your team might be there. It's one way, especially for you fantasy people, to kind of get an idea of what's going on with your defense as you look through the different levels of the defense. We did the D lines before that. We're doing the linebackers. We're going to do cornerbacks. We're going to do offensive line. Who else is left, Benny?
I think next week we'll do offensive line, and then we have the D-backs, which would be corners and safeties. And then we're going to do wide receivers last. I think wide receivers is probably the most fun unit for the fans out there.
Did we do tight ends?
No, we didn't do tight ends. Gosh, I guess we got to do tight ends.
Would they be included with receivers? These new hybrids.
We'll determine that during the week. And if I feel that that's the best way to go, then that's the way we'll go. Other than that, we'll go tight ends exclusively. Obviously, a tight end room is only going to have 3, maybe possibly 4 guys in it besides their position coach. So it's not going to be, you know, any real surprises. I mean, pretty much people know who the starting tight end is on a team. A team like the Patriots that uses a 2 tight end system, there could be some differences there. But other than that, yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Tight ends, man. Tight ends are just becoming big time now in the NFL, man. I'm telling you. And with the tight end coming out of college, what's his name again? Kyle
Pitts. Just talk about Kyle Pitts.
Kyle
Pitts from Philadelphia.
From Philadelphia, about to change the game on those guys. All right. Let's get ready to turn this thing on here and look at our first group.
And who is that group sitting at number 15?
So you want to know who number 15 is, sir? Well, let me just tell you. I think you'll be very familiar with this team because it is your New York Football Giants.
Yes, that is correct. The New York Football Giants. And before I even get started, let me remind everybody, these rankings come from Pro Football Focus. These are not my rankings. They are not in the order in which I would necessarily put them. I do not agree 100% with these rankings. However, we're using them as a baseline so we can tell you guys what's going on in each linebacker room, okay? Now, New York Football Giants play a base 3-4 defense. Start right off just like they have here at the top. Blake Martinez racked up 109 defensive stops over the past 2 seasons. That's the 3rd most in the league, okay? Blake Martinez is a stud, not only against the run, but also against the pass. Reggie Ragland excels against the run. Another good linebacker. It's been a long time since the Giants had really good linebackers. That's two of them right there. They got a rookie in the second round, and they're glad he was still there for them in the second round. That's Azeez Ojulari. They're expecting big things from him. Hopefully he comes through. I believe that he will. He played really well at Georgia, SEC team, obviously. Okay, big time player. In college, they expect him to be a big time player in the pros. They also, yeah, right. So as long as he comes through, we should be good. I believe that those three will be starting along with somebody else on the outside, or rather on the inside, because they play base 3-4. Lorenzo Carter will probably be the other guy on the inside. Okay. And this should be a really nice unit. Obviously, I've talked about the Giants defense before as being really good last season, and I expect him to improve this season. Ojulari's a big deal, though. I'm really expecting big things out of him.
Base 3-4, right? I mean,
Yes,
wow. You know, I wasn't thinking about them in terms of 3-4 defense. These are the Madden ratings. We're just bringing them up again. The Madden ratings are done differently than the Pro Football Focus ratings. The Pro Football Focus looks at every player's play, every play of the player, and then ranks that play, and they come up with their total rankings from that basis, as opposed to Madden and EA Sports, which looks at the player's physical attributes, and they have their attributes listed out throughout. Their ranking overall 75, 68, and 78. So it looks like you still, they're going to absolutely need that rookie, and maybe a little more depth at linebacker to help somebody come in and help shore up that linebacker unit. So,
yes.
All right. Good luck with your Giants linebackers for sure. All right. All right. Next up, Benny, we have your junior team. Isn't that interesting that your two teams come up consecutively like this? It's very interesting. Very interesting. Does it say something about
my
you?
Junior team? First of all, don't call them my junior team. Okay. And don't say your two teams. Right? I don't have two teams. I have one team. I'm a New York Giants fan. But the Buffalo Bills are my favorite AFC team. I really like the Buffalo Bills, but I am a Giants fan. So I just want to make that clear for everybody. Now, they play a base 4-3. Their main guy is Tremaine Edmonds. Unfortunately, Tremaine Edmonds is a guy who will make a bunch of big splash plays and then have a bunch of screw ups, almost as many one way or the other. It's kind of crazy. But again, he's their main guy. He's their main focus. He makes big plays. He forces fumbles. He does the things that you need a linebacker to do. Matt Milano has been a very solid linebacker. You've heard his name. He tackles well, plays the run really well. He was injured some, but when he's healthy, he plays extremely well. AJ Klein came over from the Saints last season. They were expecting big things from him. Got a little bit of a slow start, but he came more near the end of the season. Obviously, the Buffalo Bills are pushing to be a Super Bowl contender, but they realize that they have to shore up their defense. Their linebacking core has got to get better. Just as when we talked about defensive lines, I spoke about their defensive line and said that they've got to get better. They've made moves to do so. I expect them to be better this season.
All right. So when we look at Buffalo and we look at their rankings for their linebackers, man, not bad. Now, let me ask you a question, because I've seen this before where they've got linebackers listed in, or they've got cornerbacks listed in linebacker positions in the depth charts. And I noticed this, especially as you go down the depth chart to the second and third strings. So they had listed at linebacker Tre'Davious White, although he's listed here on the EA Sports as a cornerback. And he's listed at 92. So he's the highest ranked of those. But again, he's probably ranked more as a cornerback than as a linebacker.
Now,
But
what I was going to say was what I'm noticing is every time you bring up the Madden rankings, they show 3 guys. Obviously, some teams play 3-4, which means that they would actually have 4 linebackers. Because I think what's going on here is that they were using a 3-4, so they were probably bringing a guy who's really a DB down to play outside linebacker. But as of now, we're expecting them to run a base 4-3. So he'll be going back where he belongs, and they'll be playing weak side, strong side, and middle. Right, that's A.J. Klein right there. That's the guy that came over from the Saints.
all right, and he's ranked at 72. So that rounds out your Buffalo Bills linebacking core there. All right, that's one move. All right, next up, after the Buffalo Bills, we have the Steelers, Benny, the Steelers linebacking crew. Man, you're talking about a team with historic linebackers. What do you think about this group?
Yeah, that's true. Historically, the Steelers have been really big at linebacker, have had some really great big name linebackers. At this point, Devin Bush has been extremely solid, but just hasn't lived up to the potential that they were expecting from him. TJ Watt is a big time edge rusher. So he plays outside linebacker, but he's basically an edge rusher. He's coming off the edge, extremely hard to block, extremely intimidating for quarterbacks. Alex Highsmith hasn't become a starter or didn't become a starter until late in the season, his rookie year last season, but he proved to be up to the task. He's been playing well, and they're expecting a lot of good things out of him. He can only get better. So Highsmith, TJ Watt, Devin Bush, those are the main guys there.
Yeah, you got some serious talent there with TJ Watt. He's rated at 93, so he gets respect from EA Sports, no doubt about it. Vince Williams coming in at 78, and Alex Highsmith is coming in at 71. There was one other, and that's Devin Bush. Devin Bush is coming in ranked at 77. So you could use a little more balance in terms of the level of talent that you had there. But they played pretty well last year, when they were running into quarterback problems. It came to a point where the defense was really holding out for them.
Yeah, early on, they faltered a little bit near the end of the season. Obviously, they had no clue against Cleveland in the playoffs. Couldn't stop a nosebleed at that point. They had a bunch of problems. That's maybe we'll talk about when we talk about the secondaries, that might shed a little light on what the Steelers' problems were near the end of the season last year. But the Pittsburgh Steelers pride themselves on a tough defense. I expect them to fix some of these problems and be better.
Normally, I would be surprised at the Atlanta Falcons coming in at 12 for linebackers. Playing Madden, though, you got to come up against these guys, and you get a little more respect. You're like, oh, I'm a little surprised that these guys are playing as well as they are. But you got the number 12 team here, and when you start talking about your top 12, when we look at defenses and when we look at net points and points for, you get to your top 12. Now you're talking about playoff contenders for the most part. So the Atlanta Falcons are coming in at number 12. What do you got on them?
Now that we're talking about the Falcons, let me bring up another point that I had made during the video that we made about offensive linemen. Sometimes when you have a really good player in your group, that can elevate the whole group's ranking. And that's the case we have here with the Atlanta Falcons. They run a base 4-3, but they have a guy named Deion Jones, who's one of the best cover linebackers in the league. This guy covers tight ends. He covers backs out of the backfield. He can really move, and he tackles really well. Mikel Walker is entering his second year, okay? He played well in his first year, in his rookie year. He shows some flashes of being a really good player. They're expecting a lot out of him. Now, I'm going to read this name because I want to make sure I get it right. I think it's Foyesade Olukun. I'm butchering this. Olukun. Wow. I apologize. I'm sorry. He's played pretty well. He played well enough to earn a starting position. So, again, they're expecting more out of him. How would you pronounce that? Foyesade Olukun. Olukun, I think it is.
Okay. All right.
Foyesade Olukun. So when you're watching the Falcons game, please take note of how the announcers announce his name, and then you'll know the proper pronunciation of his name. But Mykal Walker and Deion Jones are really good players, and they're holding up this group.
I added this young gentleman just because I love his name.
Who's that? Barcavius Mingo. Yes. I like Barcavius Mingo. He came over from the Bears. Again, pretty good cover guy. Not nearly as good as Deion Jones. Good tackler. Plays the run well. It's a nice group. It's a very nice group.
Not a bad group at all. Not a bad group at all. Okay. This is another one of those historic defensive teams. We are talking about the Chicago Bears, coming in at number 11, just out of the top 10.
Right. Now, I'll just read what you got here. Roquan Smith was one of the best coverage linebackers when coming out of Georgia, and he put together a nice season. Roquan Smith is a top-notch cover guy, no doubt about it. Khalil Mack, everybody knows that name. This guy's going to be a Hall of Famer. Obviously, a stud edge rusher, but doesn't get as much notoriety as he should against the run. This guy is an all-round great player. Khalil Mack is an all-round great player, no doubt about it. Danny Trevathan, you may remember his name. He used to play for Denver, okay? He seems to be slowing down a bit. He's been in the league for a few years. I'm not going to say he's old, but he seems to be slowing down a little bit, which happens at linebacker sometimes because let's face it, linebackers are constantly stuffing holes, taking on running backs, chasing running backs around, chasing tight ends. So Danny Trevathan's probably getting around the end of his career here. He's been around for 10 seasons, in fact. So, yeah, he might be getting near the end. Robert Quinn is also aging, but he still has some juice. And Joel Ayegbuniwe, bro, I'm so embarrassed. I should not be mispronouncing these names like this. It might be the Rolling Rock. I don't know. Ayegbuniwe is just about ready to step up.
Was that the Rolling Rock that helped you out that time?
Yes, it was. He's just about to step up. Bears have a nice linebacking core. They have a nice D-line. Bears are going to be tough on defense as always.
There you go. Yeah. Obviously, they've got Mr. Mack rated at 97. A few other backs rated pretty highly. So they should be good at linebacker. But again, you need that. You got to get a little more balance, I think. When you got that one guy who's like super great, then you look around and he's going to have to make up for a lot of other guys who aren't so super great. But he's got Roquan Smith, and he's ranked at an 87. Trevathan is 78. So he's got some good talent there between Khalil Mack and Roquan Smith. We should see some good defense. And we know Justin is going to need a strong defense. Am I right about that?
Oh, absolutely. No doubt about it. But the Bears are up for the task. They're not going to lose games because of their defense. I don't think that's going to happen. They've got to settle on their quarterback situation. They've got a good run back. They've got a pretty good offensive line. They've got a good running back who's just beginning to excel in David Montgomery. So it's going to come down to Dalton or Fields or Foles, and they're going to have to make up their minds at quarterback, and then they got to roll from there. But if they have problems, it won't be because of the defense.
Let's get to the top 10. Number 10, the New Orleans Saints. Again, we have a situation where there's a question at quarterback, and you're going to need to lean on that defense in many cases to make up for any mistakes and things of that nature with a new quarterback and a new, in that system, even though their quarterbacks have been around for at least a year with, in the case of Jameis and much more than that in the case of Taysom Hill. So what do you think about the Saints linebacking room?
Okay, so I've already said many, many times I don't necessarily agree with these rankings. This is one I definitely don't agree with, and I'm just going to say flat out, as well as the New Orleans Saints defense played last season, this linebacker core is not up to snuff. A lot of question marks here. Now, first of all, the one question mark they don't have is Demario Davis. Demario Davis is an elite run stopper. No question about that. Maybe, in fact, such a good run stopper that he has elevated this group to number 10 status as far as Pro Football Focus is concerned, but not as far as I'm concerned. Okay, Pete Werner was drafted in the second round, and he's expected to start. So now you got a second round guy that's expected to start that's probably not as good as the guy the Giants got in the second round. So again, that's a bit of a question mark. In fact, he's listed as a starter. Wow.
Yeah, as a matter of fact,
he's listed as a starter, and he was an undrafted free agent in 2019.
Because he's a rookie, there was no Madden rating for him, so I just pulled up his information.
Yeah, here's the problem. Undrafted free agent. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Not Pete Werner. Chase Hansen is listed as a starter. He was an undrafted free agent in 2019. Big question mark.
All right. I don't see him. There he is.
Chase Hansen. Right.
Strong side linebacker.
Yeah, I mixed up Werner and Hansen. So Werner, I believe, has shown enough that he will hold down his spot. Chase Hansen is the big question mark. Undrafted free agent. We have no clue what he's going to do, but they haven't penciled in as a starter. So we'll have to see. To me, that's not enough to warrant them a number 10 spot in the rankings, but what are you going to do?
Yeah, this is interesting when you look at Demario Davis on Madden ranked at 91, Chase Hansen at 62, and Zach Bond at 69. So that would definitely bolster your argument that top 10, not when you look at the whole room, that becomes a question mark there.
I mean, I would flat out say that I believe the Bears linebacker crew is far and away better than the Saints. I would even venture to say that the Falcons should be ahead of the Saints. I would push the Saints down to like 12 or 13 and put Atlanta and Chicago ahead of them. But that's just me.
Okay. Well, the next group that we have coming up here is, again, a little bit of a surprise for me. We're talking about the Minnesota Vikings coming in at number 9 here. The Vikings?
Again, we have a guy that's so good, he has elevated the entire room. Eric Kendricks is an elite cover linebacker, okay? Pro Football Focus has him ranked as the number one cover guy at linebacker. That's where they got
the number 1 cover guy.
The number
Nobody's
one
better.
Cover. He's the number 1 cover linebacker per Pro Football Focus. Yes, Anthony Barr is no slouch. He's been relatively average, but he's shown a lot of flashes. I watch a lot of Vikings games because I had a couple Vikings on some of my fantasy teams, so I tried to kind of pay attention to the Vikings. I think Anthony Barr is pretty good. Hopefully he shows it this season. Chaz Surratt was a 3rd-round pick. He's expected to challenge for playing time. I think they have him penciled in as a starter right now. If he doesn't start at the beginning of the season, he will probably work his way into that.
Sounds like a winner there. Let me just see here if we have the other information. No, there we go. All right, taking a quick look at the Madden ratings. And we have Nick Vigil coming over from the Chargers at 73, Eric Kendricks at 91, and Anthony Barr listed at 79.
Yeah, Kendricks is a beast. Kendricks is a star. I think Barr can be a star. I've seen enough from him, but he hasn't totally proven it yet. What was his Madden rating?
Oh, I think it was in the 70s.
Yeah, okay. I expect more out of Barr. I do.
All right, there you go. There you go. All right. All right, so again, Ben, normally when we see and net points and we look at the top 8, that's where your Super Bowl contenders are coming from. But we're talking about the Houston Texans here and their linebackers. But number 8, really? Texas got linebackers like that?
Wait, leave that up for a second. Houston is building what looks like a disaster almost across the board right now. But one exception is their linebacker group. How crazy is that? So obviously, we're only talking about linebacker rooms, okay? And they got them in number 8. I don't know if I would have them that high, but they've got a nice group here. Zach Cunningham is a tackling machine. This guy's an elite run stopper. At the other 2 spots, they run a base 3-4, so I'm missing a guy. But Christian Kirksey and Kamau Rougier-Hill are both solid veteran players. So, you know, again, when you have one elite player, that can raise your ranking, obviously, according to Pro Football Focus and the system that they use. I would not have them this high, but yeah, that's a strength of a team that looks like it's going to be pretty sorry this season.
Well, let's take a quick look here and see and see what the Madden ratings look like for them, because I mean, really, to have them that high is a bit much in my estimation. Look at this. Whitney Merciless, 75. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I like Merciless. He's been around for a little while. I really like Kirksey. And I really like Zach Cunningham. But as you can see, when you look at the Madden ranking, he's only a 76, which is not terrible, but it's not elite. However, this guy is a tackling machine. It's plain and simple. If you watch the games, this guy is a great run stopper. Obviously, some teams will opt to go right at him. Some teams will run away from him, but he's a factor. He's a factor. The guy's a factor. When you're going to play the Texans and you're talking about your running game, you're going to game plan for Zach Cunningham.
Well, Jacob Martin is also listed, and he's coming in at 69. So, again, some questions about where they're being ranked for the Houston Texans. I mean, that just seems to be a bit much there. I don't know about that one. But, okay, you know, it's nice to have a redeeming feature. I kind of feel for the head coach going in with the Texans. I mean, this guy's got a job in front of him. Kind of reminds me of the Miami Dolphins, you know, when their coach came in and we were like, okay, this guy's going to be facing, you know, a resistance from his management, in terms of what they're trying to accomplish, as opposed to, what you're trying to accomplish, because you're trying to win. And we kind of felt like maybe they were trying to tank for Tua or whatever it was that they were doing at that time, so there was some resistance we kind of felt from the Miami Dolphins management, and the Texans are sort of in that same situation. All right, number 7, the New England Patriots.
New England Patriots. So the stud in this group is Dante Hightower, but he opted out last season. He will be back. They're expecting him to pick up where he left off. Kyle Van Noy, also a really good player. I think he left in free agency, played a season with the Miami Dolphins, and then came back. So, again, another good player back with New England. Matthew Judon came over from the Ravens, and they've got a bunch of young guys waiting in the wings. So, defense is very important to the New England Patriots. Dante Hightower means a lot to them. They're expecting a bunch from Judon. This is going to be a really good group. And if the young guys pan out, that gives them a lot of depth at linebacker. That's a big deal for New England, and they're going to need it because their offense is still kind of in flux. But I expect their defense to be strong. This is a good group.
Yeah. I don't sleep. Do not sleep on the Patriots this year. That's all I got to say. I think they have a motivated coach. So, and if Cam comes back and acts half like he knows what he's doing, they could be a very dangerous team. I mean, you got to like them guys, man. You got to like them. Okay. Who's up next? We're in the top 6. The Dallas Cowboys, number 6, your NFC East rivals.
Right. Now, the Cowboys run a base 4-3. First thing people are going to say is the Dallas Cowboys defense stinks. They were horrible last year, and they were. But guess what? Their linebacker core was the strength of a very weak defense. But Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch are really good players, but they played poorly last season. So they've shown that they can play. But last season was just a total debacle for the defense as a whole. If you have a really weak D-line or you have a really weak secondary, but your linebacker core is good or even great, the opposing team can easily scheme around that group, which ends up making them look bad. That's what happened to the Cowboys. Number 6 ranking, that's kind of high. And I'm not saying that they're going to elevate the Cowboys' whole defense and that they're going to be really good this season. I'm not going to say that. I think they still have a ton of challenges on defense. But I can't talk too bad about Smith and Vander Esch. They're good players. And now, here comes Micah Parsons out of Penn State, a guy that I wanted my Giants to get. Micah Parsons was a stud in college. They're expecting him to be a stud in the NFL. If he pans out, that's going to elevate this group even more. And I think that's what Pro Football Focus is looking at. I think they believe that Micah Parsons is going to be a really good player. And when they bring him in with Smith and Vander Esch, that group is going to be solid.
You wanted Micah Parsons, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I'm not mad at what they did. I'm not. But I was partial to him. Yes, I was.
Well, yeah, they took him, as it says here on ESPN, with the 12th pick overall in the first round. So, yeah, man, you got to be quicker than that. Is that how the commercial go? But the Cowboys, the other thing with the Cowboys linebackers is their ability to stay healthy. They, you know, before, what do you have? Vander Esch, and who was the linebacker that just retired?
Oh, Zach.
Zach.
Zach. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about concussion city between the two of them. So we'll have to see how long Vander Esch is able to stay healthy and stay around. They have him listed at 78, Jalen Smith at 77. So Micah Parsons is going to have his job cut out for him, you know, when he joins this group. And they have what, new coaches now? They've got you know, some things going on. They got the new coaching, the new system, which I think they're saying that they're actually picking up pretty well. So that's going to be an interesting situation because the Cowboys playoff hopes, as far as I'm concerned, are going to really depend on their defense, because their offense, with that coming back, shouldn't be terrible. I mean, they got all the talent in the world, and if Zeke actually runs the ball, you know.
Yeah, I don't think the Cowboys defense is going to be as bad as it was last season. In fact, I will say I expect them to improve. If for no other reason than bringing in the new coach and changing the system a little bit, I believe what they're trying to do is adapt the system to the players that they have, which I think is a smart thing to do. Okay, sometimes you try to force a system that doesn't fit the players that you have, and it ends up being a disaster. I think that's what happened to the Cowboys. So I'm looking for them to be improved on defense.
Well, let's see what we have next. Number 5, we're in the top 5 now. All right. So as I said to you, I had something special set up for the top 5. So let you get started with the Indianapolis Colts coming in at number 5, and then I'll add mine in a little later.
Okay, so real quick, the Colts run a base 4-3. Darius Leonard is a stud, hands down. Zaire Franklin, extremely solid player against the pass and the run. Bobby Okereke needs to improve from last season. They were expecting more out of him, but he's young. He's got to feel his way a little bit. I think he's going to be much better this year. That's a solid group.
That is a solid group, and as we again talk about the offenses that are going to be there, you've got the question with Mr. Wentz now coming in at offense, but everybody's saying with the defense and all the weapons he has around him, he should be okay. Now I'm looking here at the Madden ratings. You've got Darius Leonard rated at 89, Okereke at 78, and Zaire Franklin at 61. And what I did, and what I'm going to do for the top 5, is I just looked at those rankings and I just averaged them out so that we can compare linebacking groups. And they averaged out to 76. And I'll let you know that they came in at number 5 with PFF. And based on their averages through the Madden rankings, they're going to be number 5 with me also. So There you go at number 5. All right. Next up, we have number 4, the Denver Broncos. What do you got for them?
Denver Broncos run a base 3-4. They've been running a base 3-4 forever. Okay. Von Miller is returning from injury. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. If he comes back and picks up where he left off, there should be no problem there. Bradley Chubb on the other side is a stud. Recorded 7.5 sacks last year. In Miller's absence, would have been more if Miller had been there. They got great support from the 2 inside guys, Alexander Johnson and Josie Jewell. They're better than average run stoppers, and they hold their own in coverage also. Solid group. Be wary of the Denver Broncos. Not just because of this linebacker core. I know we're just talking about linebackers right now. Be wary of the Denver Broncos.
Be wary of the Denver Broncos. All right. As I looked at the Denver Broncos, we have Bradley Chubb coming in with an 84 ranking. Alexander Johnson with a 79 ranking. Josie Jewell, is that the name there? I hope I got that right. Coming in at a 74 ranking. And because they are a 3-4, let's see if I can get that other guy here.
Von Miller.
Von Miller. What another guy to have, right? All right, so Von Miller being that other guy, 96 rating. 96 rating. So that'll definitely pull your linebacker room up if you've got that. Now, as I look at the Broncos with that 96, rating there, I come up with an average of 83.25, which puts the Broncos in second place in my book.
Okay.
Okay.
Be wary of the Denver Broncos.
Be wary of the Denver Broncos, no doubt about it. I'm going to take you up on that. I'm going to take you up on the Broncos. Nothing like the top 3 linebacking rooms in the NFL, according to Pro Football Focus. Now, as you say, my numbers are a little bit different, but let's just see what we got here. Coming in at number 3, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Right.
What do you think about that?
Now, again, this is Pro Football Focus. This is not Ben and Barry. Okay. Now, where did you say your ranking for the Denver Broncos came out?
2.
Number 2 of the top 5. Okay. I will go out on a limb right now and say that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers linebacker core should be number 1. I'm calling them number 1. You'll tell me what you have after this. Outside linebackers, Jason Pierre-Paul and Shaq Barrett are dynamic pass rushers. Dynamic pass rushers. The inside guys, Levante David and Devin White, excel at stopping the run and in coverage. If you didn't watch any football last season and you watched the Super Bowl, you know what I'm talking about. This, in my estimation, is the number 1 linebacking core in the NFL right now.
Not bad, Mr. Dickerson, not bad. Let's take a quick look at the Madden ratings for this group. We have Jason Pierre-Paul coming in at 85, former Giant, right?
That is correct.
Devin,
Super Bowl winner.
Super Bowl winner. Devin White coming in at 84. And look at Levante coming in at 91. And you'll notice on those 2 high ratings, you'll notice that Devin has a speed rating of 92. And Levante has a speed rating of 86, man. So you know these guys can fly. And let's see here, Benny. Oh, wait a minute. We have
Shaq Barrett on there.
We have one more, and that would be Shaq Barrett. And there you go at 88.
Nice.
At 88. So as I look at this particular group with the Bucks, averaged out to 87, which is the number 1 spot.
There you go. How about that? And that's without a production meeting between the 2 of us.
And I told you.
Production meeting.
I told you nothing. Nothing at all. So you're absolutely right. There was nothing. There was no prepping for this one. There you go. All right. Number 2, based on Pro Football Focus, and number 1, let's just do number 2, and then we'll talk about my particular decisions on that. So here we go with number 2, the Seattle Seahawks.
Wow. Seattle Seahawks coming in at number 2 for Pro Football Focus. They run a base 4-3. In my estimation, they should not be ranked this high. They should not be ranked low, but they should not be ranked this high. Bobby Wagner is an elite run stuffer, and he makes big plays in coverage. So he can cover and he can stop the run. But the rest of this unit is extremely young, and they're all going to have to step up to make up for the loss of KJ Wright, because KJ Wright is gone. I don't think Bobby Wagner is that strong a player to have this entire group ranked as number 2 overall. I'll just say that. I don't want to cast any disparity against them. They're a good unit, no doubt about it. But number 2, I think that's too high for them.
Yeah, well, if you look at the Madden ratings here with Jordan Brooks and Ben Burr-Kirven, Jordan Brooks coming at 78, Ben Burr-Kirven coming in at 69. So that 96 rating for Bobby Wagner definitely helps, but you're right, that's not going to bring it up. And that's coming in with my averages at 81. So we'll hold off to see what place that is after we do the next one. Did you have anything else on the Seahawks?
No, I'm just saying, because they're young players, there's a possibility that they will elevate their games, and this could end up being a pretty solid group. You know, obviously Seahawks had a lot of problems on defense, but you can't blame it all on the linebacker core. They had problems on defense overall. So if those other 2 guys can play a little bit better and support Bobby Wagner a little bit, yeah, that could be a solid group.
All right. Now, this is the funny part. You know I'm being objective. When my beloved 49ers come in with the number 1 linebacker group, according to Pro Football Focus, and I'm like, no, I don't think so. As much as I love my 49ers, what do you got on that, Benny?
I can't. They do not belong at number 1. There's no doubt about it. Obviously, I just said the Bucks should be number 1. The Niners, if I was going to drop them, I would drop them real far. But number 1, no. They run a base 4-3. They've got a strong D-line, which covers up a lot of ills for this linebacking core. Fred Warner is right up there production-wise with Bobby Wagner. Really good run stuffer. Pretty good against the pass. Dre Greenlaw has proven to be a pretty solid player, but he's got to improve. But he's still young. The rest of these guys are all young dudes. Samson Ebukam came over from the Rams. They're probably going to plug him in to start right away. And then the rest of the way, all those young guys are going to have to fight it out for playing time. And, because they're so young, you never know what's going to come out of the mix. You know what I mean? Somebody could excel out of that bunch. They do play a 4-3. So obviously Warner and Greenlaw are going to start. That third spot's kind of up in the air as far as I'm concerned. Again, they have the potential to be a really solid group with a lot of depth. But number 1, no, I don't think so.
Well, to be quite honest with you, they came in averaging 81 also, so they tied for 3rd and 4th with Seattle.
Right. That's
my
what I
top 5.
I wouldn't drop them so low. And believe me, if you know football, what you'll understand is if you don't have a linebacker core that's outstanding at all 3 or 4 positions, then they need a lot of help from the D-line. However, if the D-line happens to be outstanding, it can elevate how we look at the linebacker core. You know what I mean? So that's basically how that works. And I think probably their ranking is being boosted a little bit because of their D-line.
When I'm manipulating my defense in Madden, Ford, we still have Ford
D
on
Ford.
the team, D Ford. And so what I'll do is I'll take, gosh, why am I having a hard time with his name here? What's the guy, what's the guy who has the brother in the NFL?
Bosa.
Huh?
Bosa.
Bosa. How can I forget Bosa? I'll take Bosa and move him to linebacker because my linebackers are so weak, and put D Ford in there at end. And Bosa can play, you know, and so he can still help support the linebackers a little bit also, especially if you want somebody that can both rush and drop off in coverage, you know, and help out a little bit underneath especially. So, yeah, I didn't see number one for our linebacker group. That Bucs linebacker group is definitely in first place. Second place, I have the Broncos. Third and fourth tied between the Seattle and my Niners, and fifth place goes to the Colts. So those are my top five based on Madden averages. Anything you want to say to wrap up this particular segment?
No, I said be wary of the Broncos. I say that because I believe that with Von Miller coming back, that's going to elevate their entire defense, not just the linebacking core. And I would also say the same thing for the Colts. If the Colts had any deficiencies last year, one slightly being Phillip Rivers, but the other was the defense as a whole. Their linebacking core looks pretty solid. That's going to help them quite a bit. If Darius Leonard has another great season like he did last year, the Colts are going to be tough to beat.
No doubt about it. And, you know, it's funny because as you play through Madden and you have these guys like a Khalil Mack, you know, who's just so much better, you know, and you literally have to figure out, okay, how am I going to deal with this guy? Because I've seen him literally in the game push two people aside, you know, and just come across the line and just smash a running back. So these guys are just terrors, you know, on defense. And when you have a linebacking core that can either drop back and help your secondary a little bit or come up and help, you know, in that run game, which is what you want, then, yeah, you're going to have a good defense. And it wasn't until as far as the Seahawks were concerned, where they picked up the safety, Adams, and they picked up that extra D lineman. And then all of a sudden their defense started to look like a defense, you know, because they were looking pretty sad. If you follow Ben and Barry on football, you know that during the season, we are tracking points against, and we're ranking defense based on the points that they give up. And Seattle was down there with Green Bay. They weren't as far down as the Dallas Cowboys, who were near the bottom in terms of giving up points. But you can see what happens with these defenses in terms of their ability to handle what's going on. And that NFC West is going to be a monster. When you got 3 and 4 tied as far as defense is concerned, and geez, where were the Rams again? They were last week, weren't they? Bottom half?
Yeah, they were in the bottom half. But we're just talking about linebackers. We're just talking about linebackers. If that's how they graded, that's how they graded. It doesn't mean they stink. That doesn't mean their defense is going to be trash. Because, again, go back, look at the video about defensive lines. The Rams, I believe, were top 5. Okay? A great D-line can help a linebacker core look a whole lot better. But when Pro Football Focus does their rankings, they rank player by player, play by play. What did he do against the run? What did he do against the pass? Did he get sacks? Is he a decent pass rusher? Is he good in coverage? And they break each guy down individually. So, you know, that doesn't mean the Rams are going to be bad on defense. They'll probably be really good on defense. In fantasy, they're ranked extremely high in defense. I believe they're top 5 in defense fantasy-wise. So, you know, just because your linebacker core doesn't rank out highly doesn't mean your defense is going to be bad.
I keep thinking about my Niners competing so well against the Rams, though. You know, we ran the ball. You know, when you got a tight end like Kittle, you know, and he's matched up with some linebackers, that's a win. And when you got the speed of a Mostert, that's a win also. So we've been able to handle them surprisingly to me, to be quite honest, because I keep looking at their defense as being a top ranked overall defense. So
right, but that's what I'm saying. If you got a great D line, but your linebacker core is a little subpar, you can scheme against that. You know what I mean? You can take advantage of certain things. So you know their D line is rough, and you know they're bringing the heat, but you also know that they don't have a great cover guy at linebacker. Kittle's going to excel. So you want to get him out on routes where you can get rid of the ball quickly. And then you're like, hey, what's wrong with the Rams? Oh, there's nothing wrong with the Rams. They're just being out schemed. That's all.
That's it. That's it. There you go. All right. Well, that takes care of the linebacker rooms in the NFL. We have covered number 32. I keep wanting to put a 33rd team in there for some reason. Number 32 through number 1. And although my Niners came in at number 1 in Pro Football Focus, in our hearts and in my heart, I had to give it to the Bucs as the number 1 linebacking core in the NFL. So it is what it is. All right, Benny. All right, Benny. So we like to do something positive, show something positive before we wrap up for the evening. Let's take a quick look at Travis Kelce running his football camp. You ready for this?
Go into a break, 9 times out of 10, like a pitcher, I want to go off the mound at home plate. I want to go in the direction that I'm going. So I'm putting this instep in the direction that I'm going. The quarterback's back there, he's right. I'm cheating it, and I'm going to hit it, and everything aligns. Whoa! So the first one we're going to do is just your typical 1-2. We're going to work not only the plant break, throw your fucking feet into the ground. Create that force. The same thing when you're blocking. You want the fucking feet in the ground. You want that force to be in the ground.
I love this. I love this. He's talking about foot placement for breaking on an out route. And he's also talking about foot placement and positioning your body for a stalk block. Body position, foot position. These are all little micromanaging things that you need to know to be a really good player. Okay, coming from a great player. Obviously, right now, Travis Kelce is arguably, and it's not a really great argument, the best tight end in the NFL right now. There's a couple guys that are close. Kittle's close. Andrews from the Ravens is close. Waller, the Raiders, is close. Okay. I would venture to guess that I would hope that some of them were there at that camp. He called it TEU, Tight End University, where he is just simply sharing knowledge with his peers. This is not with college players, although there may have been some college players there. This is not for high school kids. This is not a neighborhood thing. He is sharing knowledge with his peers. And Von Miller has done the same thing for linebackers. Von Miller gave some linebacker camps where he brought in linebackers, regular guys, backup guys, starters, and they went over all the little things to help you improve your game. Who does that? You know what I'm saying? Who shares that kind of information? We forget, everybody's like, I'm an Eagles fan, I'm a Giants fan, I'm a Niners fan. Screw that team. Oh, he sucks, he's good. NFL is a fraternity. These guys hate each other, but they love each other. You know what I mean? They're in this exclusive group. That's why when you hear guys say, this is a privilege to play in the NFL. This is not something we just hand out to everybody. Okay? So for them to share their knowledge like that, I think it's a wonderful thing. It's a great thing. He's given little minute details about making sure your instep is faced a certain way when you're going to run it out or when you're going to run a stalk block. You can't approach it the same way you would if you were running a route. You have to widen the spacing of your feet, and you got to bend your knees a little bit more. And all those little things that help you go from being a good player to a great player, or a mediocre player to a good player. I think that's a great thing that he's sharing that knowledge. I really do.
Well, I didn't see Kelce. I mean, I didn't see Kittle's rather.
Well, I don't know. He might have been there. There's a lot of people there.
Yeah, I know. I'm just actually
Big group. It's possible he was there. Maybe he wasn't. I don't know. Well, hit him up on Twitter and ask him.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. All right. Hold on one second, Mr. Dickerson. What I'm doing here is I want to get just a quick screenshot of the two of us there, because this Zoom thing, we never get to be on camera at the same time. And so I haven't worked all of that out, but I'm working on it in the recording feature. So yes, Travis Kelce is arguably the best tight end in the game right now. You got to love his attitude toward football. He loves the game. And that, when you got a guy like that, it just makes it so much fun to play the game. That's why Kittle's such a joy to play the game with, because that guy loves what he's doing. And both of them sound like they got a little bit of that wrestler attitude there. I know Kittle loves the wrestlers. I don't know about Kelce. So, all right. That's about it for me. Any last words for you?
No, bro, I'm good. Go Noles.
Go Noles. All right.